Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining us once again here on Talkin Fight for another episode of the Friday Night Panel. We've got Lou Eisen joining us, famed boxing author, and of course a podcaster here on Talkin Fight, as well as Mike Orr from the Knuckle Up Show, famous for its nearly 1,000 shows now. Anyway, actually, hey, did you notice that Podbean gave us an award for hitting 50,000 downloads?
Wow. Nice. I like that. I guess our hard work's finally paying off. People listening.
That's right. There are. All right. So the biggest news, I suppose, this week was Netflix producing that show about Tyson Fury. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
I heard about it.
Yeah. It's called At Home with the Furies.
Oh God.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. But,
well, I guess he's getting one more step there closer to retirement, eh?
Well, yeah, I guess he's selling his TV rights. Anyway, well, good for him. I hope, if he goes out with a bang against Francis Ngannou, and then
Ngannou? That guy hits like a Ford Fiesta, apparently.
Yeah, I can't believe that fight because, I wouldn't say this to Mayweather, and who am I, but Mayweather has this. I was 50-0, but one of those fights was Conor McGregor, so that's not an official boxing match. So you're not 50-0.
But McGregor had a license, didn't he?
Right, but he was not a boxer with a background or a pedigree. He was a UFC guy. This is what kills me about the UFC. Well, he's a striker. Yeah, and occasionally, once in my life, I can sing a song and hit one note. Doesn't make me Barbara Streisand. I mean, he's not a boxer by any means. You can't pick it up in 6 months. And to fight a UFC guy, I mean, some people will tune in, but you want to see him fight a real guy. He's supposed to fight Usyk, who I don't think he can beat because Usyk's too skilled and won't stand in front of him and fight his fight. So he's not going to fight him. So,
no.
That's.
Did you also see that Manny Pacquiao is going to fight a mixed, what do they call it, mixed match?
Yeah, that's sad too, I think. Doesn't need it. Maybe he can't. It's hard to watch. Ray Leonard said, you're fighting and there's all these people in the stands and millions watching. How do you walk away from that?
Right, exactly.
Well, he did it. Pacquiao did it well. He walked right into government.
Yeah. The one corrupt arena into the next.
Yeah, exactly.
Ouch.
But there's rumors about how much money he's got. I mean, he who knows? I mean, he owed millions in the Philippines. He couldn't go back there for a long time, and he also owes money in U.S. taxes. So these guys aren't brought up with fiscal knowledge. A lot of the guys helping them rip them off, so we don't know. But I there's no reason for him to do this.
Speaking of someone else who's making a ton of money elsewhere, I see that Matchroom have a new show called Canvas about to hit the screens. Mm-hmm. So Eddie Hearn, yet again, venturing out and making even more money for himself and his dad. Anyway.
Dad was an honorable guy. He isn't. I mean, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, one of the longest standing taboos in boxing is, if you go to a Bob Arum card and you're a rival promoter, you don't go into the dressing rooms and steal his fighter in that arena that night.
No.
But Hearn does. He does that all the time.
Right.
And American promoters are getting tired of it. And yes, the Zone has a podcast, but I literally do not understand what they're talking about.
I
don't know what language they're speaking. When they speak, they speak really quick. And they're giving all these inside comments and just lost me. I have no clue.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Can I say one other thing before we get going on real serious stuff?
Yeah.
I am kind of curious. I mean, this must be a UK thing. I mean, it kind of, to me, falls on the heels of the success of Creator Clash. And that was influencer-based boxing, okay? But now they've got two promoters in air quotes. One called Misfits Boxing and the other called Kingpin. And one of the young ladies who participated in I think it was Kingpin's latest, actually is a tournament, not an actual fight night. But anyway, at the end of her victory, she raises her blouse and she thought she had tassels on, but they weren't, and thus flashed the TV audience and the crowd. And you know what I find kind of funny? We here in Ontario have equal rights. I mean, if a woman chose to, she could walk down the street topless, as could a man.
I often encourage them to.
So here you go. The nation that has the page 3 girl, okay? Here they are up in arms, including my favorite, Eddie Hearn, up in arms about this. Okay,
he's only up in arms because he's not making money off it.
That's what I said in my show too. But anyway, yeah. So anyways, there you go. That's enough of the tidbits and the surrounding fringes of boxing. Let's get cracking with the weekend's shows, shall we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're gonna have to read them out for me because unfortunately my computer stuff is still not.
Well, it's next Tuesday. Sorry, we have Inoue going against Stephen Fulton.
Yeah, I like Fulton. McGregor's fighting this weekend. Lee McGregor.
I think Inoue's going to destroy Fulton early. I think Fulton is a very good fighter, but he's going to have to look on his face Curtis Stevens had when he fought Gennady Golovkin, and he was bragging about, and Stevens was doing well, and the first time Golovkin hit him with the right hand, and he went down, you could hear him mouth the words "holy," say blank T, and wow. I mean, he never been hit like that. No, Inoue's on an entirely different level than any other fighter on the planet. And the first time Fulton gets hit, he's going to feel it.
Yeah, fair enough. Before that particular show hits the screens, though, we do have George Kambosos Jr. going up this weekend as well. It's going to be a good fight against Maxie Hughes. Of course, we all know who the British are rooting for, and we all know who the Australians are rooting for. So,
yep, we do.
What do you think, Mike? Before we get into the undercard, what do you think about that one?
I like Lee McGregor. I like
Lee McGregor.
Sorry, not McGregor. I'm sorry, Kambosos Jr. I was talking about the other card. No, Kambosos Jr. I like him. I like to see the kid bounce back after that loss that he suffered, and it'd be nice to see this kid come back from that beat that he took and come through with a wicked victory on this one.
I agree.
Just so you know, Kambosos, he's 20-2.
Yeah,
10 knockouts. Maxie Hughes, 26, 5-2, 5 knockouts. It's for the IBF World Title Eliminator, actually, taking place in Shawnee, Oklahoma. Actually, yeah.
Bots. Yeah, I don't know if they've ever had boxing in Shawnee. Why it would take place there, I don't know. But I thought he had an exclusivity contract that he only fights Devin Haney and loses by unanimous. Now he's fighting Maxie Hughes, who I like a lot. It's a good fighter, a lot of spunk, but he's short. And Haney's people, Kambosos people had to say, we need a fight that we know we can win.
Yeah.
And Maxie Hughes is a very good fighter, but I don't think he'll give Kambosos much of a fight. And on the flip side, I mean, Haney got arrested for having a gun, and Haney's father, who always talks about how religious he is and how he abides by the tenets of his religion, if you ever hear him off mic talking about other people and their religion and other fighters, it's just disgusting. So, but getting back to the fight, Kambosos beats Hughes. All
right. In the 10-round co-feature, you've got U.S. Olympic silver medalist Keyshawn Davis, who we haven't heard much of lately. 8-0, by the way, 6 knockouts. Takes up. He's going to go up against the Belgian Francesco Patera, 28-3.
Yeah. Davis all the way on this one. Davis has been actually talking a lot on social media. There's a back and forth going with Kid Austin Schofield. Schofield's called him out. Davis has told him that he's weak. We're going to see these guys battling soon enough. Can't wait to see this one. Yeah, you have the one kid who's the prospect, the blue chip prospect, going to the Olympics, getting that silver medal, making headlines, making news, and then you have Kid Austin, homeless for 2 years, living in a car with his dad, His dad's his best friend. They're in the gym every day. You know, they're very religious people. You know, they took different routes, and now they're coming to the same. You know, they're coming to that same podium, and one of them's got to stand on the top of that pedestal, and we're gonna see who it is. And I know that these guys are gonna have a wicked battle when we get to see it.
I look forward to that because Kid Austin reminds me a lot of Ann Wolfe, where when she was homeless, she was in a hospital once after getting attacked, and she saw women fighting on TV, and she said to the nurse, "You actually, do they get paid for punching each other?" And the nurse went, "Yeah." She goes, "What am I doing here?
Right.
Beat anyone up." And same with Kid Austin. I mean, he's got nothing to lose. He's looking at this guy that's got an Olympic medal, who's been looked after. And Lennox Lewis said this to me a long time ago. He said, guys like Anthony Joshua, unlike other fighters, or Davis, because of the medal they get in the Olympics, they got a whole team. They don't have to get up for a day job. They don't have to worry about their food, their laundry, paying rent, bills, anything. It's all taken care of. And a guy like Kid Austin, if he doesn't work that day, he doesn't eat. He has no place to live. So he's got nothing to lose. And
No.
And I like what he says, Davis. Don't talk to me. Shut me up.
Yeah.
You know, you say I'm weak or this, then get in the ring and prove I'm weak.
You know, we've had him on. I've had him on my show a couple times. We've talked to him. You know, he keeps getting better every time you see him in the ring. He's really starting to come into his own. You know, he's a young kid who really, really works hard at it, and you can tell. You know, he's one of those kids. He lived in the gym because it was the only option that he had, right? So,
right. And
when you get people like that, it's hard to take the wind out of that sail. You know, they've been through so much shit in their lives that you know, this is just another obstacle that he's gonna, you know, that he's in front of. And you know what? I'd like to see him come out on top. I think he can really bring it to Davis. You know,
I agree.
Well, before we go off onto that one, let me just wind out the undercard on the Kambosos Hughes fight. The undercard is going to feature the ring returns of welterweight contender Giovanni Santillan, Oklahoma-born heavyweight Jeremiah Milton, and middleweight prospect Troy Isley. So Santillan is 30-0, by the way, 16 knockouts. Will face Ecuadorian contender Eric Bone, 27-6, in a 10-rounder. Milton, 9-0, 6 knockouts. Will make his second appearance of 2023, 8-rounder against Willie Harvey. And Isley's he's 9-0. Wow, didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know he was undefeated. A 2020 U.S. Olympian will fight an 8-rounder against Antonio Todd, 14-8. Seems like we've got some good matchups there.
Definitely.
Just winding out though the undercard. Orlando, Florida's Amron Sands, 12-2, returns against New Zealand's Emi Ohio, 20-1. And once beaten contender Stephen Shaw looks to bounce back against Australia's Joe Goodall. And that all takes place in Shawnee.
Who's promoting it?
Pretty good. Pardon me?
Who's promoting the card?
That's a good question. Promoted by Top Rank in association with DeBella Entertainment.
Good old Lou.
Lou DeBella. I like Lou, but he's crazy. I say that because he's 5 times my size. Most people are, but he in particular, he's really, when he gets into it, he gets into it.
And ironically, in terms of upcoming fights, that seems to be it, unless I go around the world and search hard and heavy. Did you have anyone else in mind, Mike?
The Lee McGregor fight? You see that one?
All right. I wasn't. It didn't come up on my screen. Let's have a quick look here.
Did you see the Frank Martin fight last week?
No, I did not. I didn't see it. No, I haven't even gone back to watch the replay of it yet.
Yeah, the Hartunian fight. I did something Angela told me to do years ago. I turned off the sound because the announcers are so pro. I mean, they wanted Frank Martin, obviously, but Hartunian, they had him winning every round. And when you saw the fight, you know, Martin landed more punches, which isn't necessarily a barometer for when to fight. But Hartunian's meant to fight backing up and running, and Martin's meant to fight coming forward. And he won a unanimous decision. I agree with my friend Steve Weisfeld, who I think is the gold standard for judges. He had it, I think, 114, 113 for Martin. And then, of course, you have Max DeLuca, something like 119, 111. And you just, what are you watching?
Yeah, I swear to God, that guy's name always pops up in certain situations like that.
Yeah, Tim Cheatham, the same thing.
Yeah, like I don't get these guys. Like, what fight are you watching, really?
You fail upwards in a lot of places, like in Vegas. When you had C.J. Ross in that, and she had the Canelo fight with Mayweather a draw, and you look at her, and there was no training. She was at a dinner party where Mark Ratner, the head of the Las Vegas boxing commission or sports commission, just said, sure, you can be a judge. Just send your name in. Here's my contact. But there was no training. Like you said, you don't have to undergo training. And you're dealing with people's lives here where you're costing them money by ripping them off.
Right.
It's ridiculous. And there's no review panel of any judge.
No.
You'd think they'd do that instinctively. That after a big fight or a major fight, you'd have to review the judges and see how they did. But they won't admit mistakes, same way the NHL does it.
Oh, no. Matty Harris is on that card.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Yep, our big boy Matty Harris.
As a matter of fact, that fight's taking place tonight, and there are actually already some results.
Yeah, there's some results, right?
Do you want to announce the results? our boy Matty lost.
No, my God, are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
I got to go back and watch this, man. He was like 1.5 feet taller than his opponent.
Konstantin Dovbychenko.
Yeah,
he won.
Oh,
technical knockout, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, got to go back and see this, man.
What weight class?
Oh, that's heavy. Matty Harris is a young 20-year-old, 6'8", 275-pound kid who's coming up through the game.
Yeah.
Guys that big usually don't have balance. They don't have their feet under them. It's so hard to get balance. A couple of weeks ago, there were two twin towers. Mark Ramsey and Russ Amber were in the corner of some guy, I think Croatian, and he was 6'6", and he was fighting a guy who was 6'9", and it was a massacre. The guy who was 6'9" was like from somewhere in Africa, but he was he's from Chad, I think, living in the States, but he was something like 28-0 against this Armenian or whoever it was, or Croatian, who was 15-0, but the Croatian had 400 amateur fights, and this guy used to be a football player and changed his major to boxing. And before the fight, when they spoke to Russ, he just said, this will be a slaughter. I don't know why they're doing it with this kid. And of course, first punch of the fight, the kid's eyes go, and he's, it's over in less than a round. And it's just, there's no reason for it. But size doesn't always, as in this case, with your guy, size doesn't always equate to victory. There's more skill and technique.
Yeah. As we see time and time again, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, seeing we have a pregnant pause here. Tell us about your guest coming up this weekend, Lou.
We're going to have Nigel Collins, who edited Ring Magazine for years, and Ringside Seat, but he caught a virus and he's been actually very sick for a week. And so I was lucky enough, after begging and pleading, to get Mark Cram Jr. on. And Mark Cram wrote a wonderful book, which I have here, if you can hang on a sec, about Joe Frazier. And he knew Joe Frazier well. And that's his book, and great story. And we'll be talking to him. And he's going to, I have a lot of questions to ask him, because I heard Frazier fought blind in one eye for most of his career. And
wow.
A member of his family said he was blind in one eye and he had a cataract in the other. So he said, plus high blood pressure and diabetes. So, but he wouldn't tell anyone. And so Mark knew him well. Mark's father, of course, wrote for Sports Illustrated and wrote Ghost of Manila about the Weird Ali Frazier fight. But Frazier, as you know, is one of the most interesting characters in boxing history. And I watched a fight again with Chevalo where he beats him in 3 rounds. He broke Chevalo's orbital bone. Chevalo turned away from him. And then they show Frazier's mother coming into the ring and start hitting Frazier with a purse and slapping his face and said, "How can you do that? He's your friend. He's a nice guy." And he said, "Mom, he's still my friend. It's just business." So Frazier sat with George in the hospital after his operation every day for 2 weeks. And out of that developed this tremendous friendship where they got together every year. They spoke almost every day on the phone.
That's pretty cool.
Friends. So Mark discusses that a bit in his book.
You've had some really, really good guests of late. That's for sure.
Yes.
Your numbers have certainly skyrocketed.
Thank you. Hopefully my weight won't do the same. But yeah, I mean, I was lucky to have Mark Allen Baker. And then as I'm talking to him, I think, wait a minute, I've got all his books. We were talking about Tony Canzoneri, but he also wrote a great book on Abe Attell. And maybe I was thinking about this last night. Abe Attell was part of the great 1919 Black Sox scandal. He was the go-between for Arnold Rothstein. And boxing, there's always been criminality in boxing for 300 years, but the mafia, as we know it in North America, really didn't get involved and didn't get interested until the Carpentier fight with Dempsey, because that's when the gates were in the millions. So it wasn't worth it before. And then only Madden comes out of prison in 1923 and takes over. But Attell, the more you read about him, I mean, he had a lot of fights where he would scheme with the other guy, you beat me, and then we'll fight for 5 times as much money next time. And he did that a lot throughout his career. So he was a real, Frazier would say, a scambooga, a real scoundrel. He would trade the title back and forth with certain guys. And, I mean, he held the title for 12 years. And people talk about the greatest Jewish fighters ever, and they say Benny Leonard and Barney Ross. But they never mention Attell, who was a world champion for 12 years. But he helped Arnold Rothstein. What can you do? Whether he wanted to or not. Rothstein wasn't a guy you said no to.
No.
None of those guys.
So I don't know if you noticed this, Mike, or not, but Carl from Last Bell has chimed in and let us know that the Lee McGregor fight has finished. So if we want to check the result, we could.
Not yet.
No? Okay. All right.
Not yet, man. I got to have something to watch soon.
All right. There you go. We'll leave
I got to watch it later. I got to watch. So
we'll leave that page blank. But it seems to me he's laughing. He doesn't give us a little emoji smile, but he seems to be enthused that Matty Harris got beat.
Who is Arthur Beterbiev fight? Is he fighting Callum Smith soon?
Oh.
Yeah. Where did I just see his name?
I know Bjarnaslav is fighting the Chechen Wolf. He's fighting in Dubai, I think, tonight or tomorrow. I'm not sure who he's fighting.
I thought was it Alvarez who is going to fight Beterbiev, and now one of the WB somethings has ordered that fight, but not to. Is it 2024 though? I thought it was
because he's fighting Charlo next.
Right.
Yeah, Beterbiev's a great fighter. I mean,
yeah. Canelo
will have his hands full with him.
I think so.
Beterbiev is technically sound, and boy can he punch.
A lot of people are afraid he's going to age out, though.
Yep.
Yeah, that could happen, but he started his career at a later age. But you're right. I mean, it's a finite. You can only take so much, and he had a lot of amateur fights as well.
Yeah,
he's been cut up in some of his fights. But when he fought, who was the guy from Long Island, the light heavyweight who beat Bernard Hopkins? Joe. Is it Joe Smith or?
Yeah, I was thinking of Billy Joe Saunders, but
no, this was the guy from Long Island who was a construction worker.
Yeah,
And he Yeah, he beat the hell out of him. But the Americans in the broadcast are saying this is going to be the toughest night of his career, and Bitter people
Joe
think
Smith Jr.
Yeah, that's it. And I thank you. And I said on my podcast that weekend, I said sometimes he fights like a world champion, and sometimes he fights like a guy named Joe Smith Jr. And that's what he did. I mean, first or second right hand, Bitter BF turned him completely around, and then the fourth, fifth punch of the fight, Smith was down. I mean, he butchered him. It wasn't remotely close.
So I went down the rabbit hole of fights tonight, and oh my gosh, there are. This is how far down I went: Argentina, Costa Rica, Guatemala, Tokyo, wherever Hamrun is. I can't recognize that flag. Tijuana, Mexico, Tortellitine, in Portugal.
But there's always fights in Tijuana.
Tanzania.
Sometimes not.
Ontario, California. Well, I think that's the last one for Thompson boxing, by the way.
Problem is there's no media for more than half of them.
No, there aren't. No. And then tomorrow night we have over in Newcastle, we've got a couple of ladies headlining. Pam McClellan and Maureen Chand. They're headlining a fight. Wow, I can't even pronounce this one. Taurag Guy. Looks like it's either looks like New Zealand or Australia. Tonga.
Gesundheit.
That's his name. Cruiserweight taking on Filomeno Nalvina Jr. tomorrow night. In Surfers Paradise, also tomorrow night, Liam Kalyanan takes on Mike Latoy for the Australian National Boxing Federation Queensland's Cruiserweight belt.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
Wow. Here's something interesting, guys. We have a fight taking place in Canada tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Headlined by our very own Jessica Camara.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to be fighting Joanna Lopez. And that's taking place in Richie Buktu. I believe that's St. John, New Brunswick. David Logue on the fight, as well as he's taking on Marco Aguiar. Mike Stauffer taking on Darren Fletcher. So a decent little fight out in the Maritimes. Wow, it doesn't stop there. Tomorrow night, Chile. The Republic of Congo has a fight tomorrow night. San Domingo, Dominican Republic has a fight tomorrow night. Wow.
Well, it's worth mentioning, though, that St. John, New Brunswick always has fights. Sometimes they're boxing, sometimes they're not. And there's fights every night in Tijuana, sometimes in the ring, sometimes on the street.
Right.
So these are hardcore places. But Mike brings up a salient point. You both do, in that it's criminal to me that's not being covered by the media, because the media is under this, and when you show them the numbers, they don't care. So it's like you're talking to a wall. They'll say, well, we cover UFC, like the Toronto Star, but there'll be a big fight, and they didn't cover Manny Pacquiao, or they didn't cover anyone. And they'll say, well, UFC does better. And you say, well, you don't have to, I've said this before, you don't have to believe me. Here are the numbers, here are the gate receipts and the pay-per-view numbers, and it's better than the UFC event that you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, yeah, but not really. Yes,
Ridiculous.
really, more eyes, more money, but they don't care. They just won't do it. And
Lou, we've been arguing this a long time, subtly arguing this point a long time, that there are fights around the world that we now here at Talkin Fight have developed a technology to allow those promoters to live stream those fights to a global audience using our studio here in Toronto. So we've made that offer. We've begun to make that offer on a wider level to promoters around the world, to bring to the attention, quite frankly, that boxing is a global sport. Mm-hmm. Nairobi has a fight tomorrow night. I can't even.
If you look at Nairobi,
Diffendanga has one.
If you look at Nairobi, that sounds like a port name, Diffendanga.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
I gave her the old Diffendanga, but when you look at Nairobi, Nairobi won't couldn't name you one UFC star, but they would know who Muhammad Ali is.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and they would know who Manny Pacquiao is or Floyd Mayweather. So the thing is, boxing's been around for 300 years. UFC is what boxing was 300 years ago before there were rules.
Right.
And UFC has just as many deaths as professional boxing. They just happen to hide it better and pay off the media better.
I figured they had more.
You know, yeah, well, they have more injuries. Boxing, I think, has more head injuries, but they have a lot of deaths. They just don't publicize it. So you'll see reporters make, and we've all seen this, right, Graham? You've seen guys on Canadian American television. Well, you know, the UFC, there's no deaths in this month. Well, there are. And UFC and Bellator. There are all the time. We just don't hear about it. It's just kept on page 30 of the newspaper, or it'll be released months later. They just hide it. So, and as you just stated, there boxing's worldwide. The UFC isn't, and the reporters here, it's just their ignorance and stupidity that they won't cover it.
Yeah, you know what the funny thing? You know, I kind of just noticed. Not that I haven't noticed this before, but how many fights have we mentioned that are taking place in America? Yet I've just noticed, you know, just reading through this list here, yet another fight in Mexico in Baja, a fight in Villa Santiago in Mexico, a fight in Metepec, Mexico, a fight in Sonora, Mexico. This is on top of the Mexican fights I mentioned before. A fight in Veracruz in Mexico. Wow, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Oh, a fight in the Philippines is taking place tomorrow night.
And the Philippines and Mexican cities draw gigantic crowds.
Oh yeah,
because these people come out and they're, you know, that they bet everything on these guys. And Philippine boxing has been big now for, you know, over 130 years. Same with Mexico. You know, both boxing in those areas goes back to the late 1800s. So UFC doesn't have that pedigree, and boxing.
Well, Graham, weren't you talking about how India has a huge following for boxing too?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Right? And like, you know, the Western world doesn't know about it.
No,
I had no idea until you told me about that.
In China too, I saw a documentary on Chinese boxing about 6-7 years ago, and an instructor was saying, "You have to be like Muhammad Ali. He had one fight where he had a leg chopped off and an arm chopped off, and he still went 15 rounds hopping on one leg with one arm and beat the man." And they're, wow, I mean, I don't know why they said that, but, you know, you have, 2 billion people in China, the same amount in India, and that's a lot of eyes on this.
Well, I mentioned this the other day. I was speaking to a friend in Shanghai, and who runs a boxing gym. And I said, how popular, and because Shanghai is something like 14 million people, one city alone. And I said, how popular is it there? And he goes, as of we were speaking, this was just a couple of weeks ago, there's over 110 boxing gyms alone. And he says it's probably more popular among women than it is among men in terms of taking up the sport, learning the sport, being engaged with the sport. For whatever reason. And he didn't mind, because as a male boxing coach, it certainly did him well to see his gym filled with young, fit females working out every day. So imagine like Toronto's a relatively big city, and how many boxing gyms do we have? A dozen, maybe?
Do we have a dozen? I didn't even know that.
Do we?
We
I mean,
have a little more than
if you include, I would say, if you include Brampton and some of the outlying 2 or 3 areas, I'd say we've got a dozen.
They're not necessarily pros in each gym teaching people.
And they're not necessarily pure boxing gyms in the sense that they're more like fitness gyms using boxing regimen to train.
I know there's the rival gym just north of where I am, and I think Ryan Grant, the Grant brothers, runs that. And
yeah, no, that's we were actually at Grant Gym. I was a couple of weeks back where my son did the filming there. Put up some good fights at the gym.
I always want to stop by when I drive by with my wife, but she always says, if we stop by, it's 1:00, 10 hours from now, you'll say another before I stop talking to them.
Honestly, they put on a really good event there.
They do.
It's a small gym, small little ring. You could probably seat 100 people in there, but you'll have 300 in there. They'll have a DJ, they'll have a barbecue, selling beers, everybody's having a good time. But the pedigree of fighters that are coming out of that place are really good.
Yeah, because Ryan Grant's there, and his brothers were fantastic fighters. One was a world champion. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And every time I drive by, I just say to myself, I pray that this stays open. And I'd love to do an article on it, but I can't get anyone interested in Toronto.
It's certainly bouncing back after COVID. That's for sure.
Yes.
Oh, place is packed.
You guys were mentioning Beterbiev before.
Yes.
He was fighting Callum Smith.
Okay.
And
when?
I'm actually just reading the comments here from Carl over at Last Bell Boxing. We won't mention his. No, it must be coming up because he's saying, in his opinion, Callum Smith will knock him out. But
I don't think there's a remote chance in hell.
Yeah, but thank you.
Yeah, I there's no way Callum Smith's a great fighter, but Beterbiev is on another level. Once again, everyone's brave. As Joe Louis used to say, everyone's got a plan till they get punched in the face. And once he gets in the ring and Beterbiev hits him with that right hand or a left hook to the liver, he's going, now I got a problem. How am I going to survive this? Now, how am I going to beat him? How am I going to survive?
Yeah,
Beterbiev's got some superhuman strength, man.
Yeah.
I wonder if I've just noticed this because unbelievably, while we're chatting, I'm still scrolling through the pages of fights, and I just came across one in Dubai that's happening tomorrow night, featuring James. I believe his nickname is Jazza Dickens. Mm-hmm. He's taking on Hector Sosa. Anyway, I'm just surprised that hasn't come up in any of our media flashes because we've talked about James Dickens a lot, supported by Alfred Lamptey, 12-0, taking on Richard Pumipchik. Wow!
I gotta tell you, someone just posted saying Beterbiev didn't look good against Yard. Ask Yard's jaw how good he looked. He may have not looked good in spurts, but he ended up beating the hell out of him. It doesn't matter how you look; it matters to win. As trainers will say, look good next fight, win this fight. Yard didn't win. Yard looked good in this round. He was winning in these rounds. Doesn't matter. In the end, he got whooped. It's all that counts in boxing is what happens at the end. You can be like Big John Tate, win 14 rounds against Mike Weaver, and he knocks you out with 15 seconds left. But he run the first 14. Yeah, but you don't judge it after that. You judge when the fight's on.
Well, how do you judge it when the guy's now sleeping?
Yeah, you could say Beterbiev is on the slide. I disagree. People say that all the time. That's an opinion. That's not a fact because he hasn't lost. You can say he's on the slide when he's lost.
He's the only world champion who has a 100% finish rate.
Yeah, and
really?
people would they would say Joe Louis is on the slide. You're right. He only knocked the guy out in 10 rounds rather than
right.
Being on the slide to me is a guy is after he's lost his title and is just doing it for the money and taking beatings. Beterbiev is still the best light heavyweight in the world, #1, and still got the belt. And regardless of the belt, still no one out there I see that can beat him, and no one has. Yard may not be Yard may not be on the level of Smith. That's an opinion, but Yard gave the last good fight that the big Russian had. The guy beat Pascal, whose name I always screw up. The former Kovalev. He gave Kovalev a great fight and then got caught. Smith is a good fighter, and he's technically very good. But, once Beterbiev starts hitting him, everyone's got an excuse. After Beterbiev beats him, someone will say, well, it's not fair because he fought him here or he fought him there or Smith was injured. All fighters go into every fight injured. I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, and that's great. We certainly welcome it. But in my opinion, I don't think Smith has a remote chance. He's got as much chance of beating Beterbiev as I do of sleeping with Haley Berry. I got a better chance of sleeping with Chuck Berry than
For those boxing.
Carl says Bivens the best.
Yeah. Well, Bivens a great fighter. I think Bivens Bivens a great fighter, and I think him and Bitter BF would be the fight. He's a lot younger and he's taller, but it reminds me of the Bitter BF fight with not Usyk, Gvodzik, and Bitter BF broke him down. Bitter BF knows what he's doing. He's not like Canelo against Bivol. He'll know what he's doing against him. But that would be a good fight. I think they're evenly matched. I think that's the fight to make at that weight class.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
The Russian you were thinking of is Kovalev?
Yes, Kovalev, yeah.
So the guys over in the UK tomorrow night have the option of driving up to Manchester or into Manchester to see George Killeen headline a match, and he's 1-0, or going down to Oldham, to the Oldham Leisure Centre, and seeing Michael Gomez Jr., who's 19-1.
Mm-hmm.
So the Brits have some good fight. Oh, in Canning Town at the Peacock, they also have the option of seeing Aaron Prosper, 11-0. Sorry, fighting Lee Hallett, 1-66.
That sounds like Mickey Rooney's marriage record, but wow.
The Brits certainly have a lot of fights to choose from. They've got also a fight going on in Leonelli in the Selwyn Samuel Center, where they'll see Ben Crocker, 9-0, take on Serge Amborno, 11-46-3.
You can't be surprised about Britain because that's the birthplace of modern boxing, and they appreciate it.
Oh, here's something we don't see often. Taking place at the Light Waves Leisure Centre in Wakefield in the UK. 1, 2, 3 fighters down. Muhammad Ali, 4-0.
That's incredible.
That's
truly incredible. 7 years after his passing, he's able to make a comeback.
There is another kid in the UK that's coming up under the name Muhammad Ali.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying it's funny that
I know it's great.
You can just see Ali there saying, "I've been dead for 7 years. I'm still the greatest thing on the planet. I'm still going to win the title a 4th time because no man can whoop me." I mean,
wow.
That's wow.
That was great. That was a great impression, actually.
Well, thanks. But Ali was.
The chap he's taking on is Rustam Fathullin, and he's 8-65.
I had a Rustam Fathullin once at an Armenian restaurant. Okay, I'll stop.
But right before that fight, Guy Kitching, 1-0, not bad. He's taking on Victor Agadha, 2-84-3.
Why do these guys? I mean, that sounds like a premier boxing champion card. Guy hasn't fought in 3 years, and he's knocked out his last 12 fights. But tonight he's got an announcer's thing. But tonight, we think he's going to do well. He's not going to do well. He's not even a tomato can.
No.
And it's just a warm body because you couldn't find someone else. This hurts the sport. It should be someone. Understandably, we know in boxing, right, you can't get a credible opponent every time. It's just not possible. Right. But 2-65, come on.
And even I remember, talking to some of the ladies early on when we started up Talkin Fight, and it was really hard to find women in the same weight class. And I think now it's evening out. It hasn't evened out tremendously, but it is good to see there are much more quality fights among the women now in the same weight class without them having to move up or down or fight the same young lady 3 or 4 times a year. So, but in what my point was although I was skirting around it, when it comes to these so-called tomato cans, I mean, you kind of feel sorry. I mean, should you not allow them to fight, or at least give them one more chance for a victory?
They make their weekly paycheck this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how much damage are they taking? I mean, if they're that good and they're paid to lose, then fine. But if they're just getting pounded and pounded and pounded,
Right.
I mean, it's a detriment to the sport because people watch it and they just, I'm not going to watch this. I'm not going to come back to this.
Well, then that comes down to the matchmaker, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. As I scoot through, and just you can interrupt anytime, but I think this is interesting. In Argentina, in Montevideo, they there's a fight taking place at the Radisson Hotel, the Radisson Victoria Plaza, and it's pretty rare these. I mean, you used to see the hotels in Vegas put on fights all the time, and then it kind of migrated to casinos and places of that nature. But it is interesting as you go around the world and you take a look at these venues that are hosting fights. It's not necessarily arenas or gyms per se, but you are seeing these, shall we say, independent venues opening themselves up to a boxing audience. They realize it's a good crowd. It's a good crowd to have.
You know, that way of thinking started in the early 1900s, but basically in Winnipeg, which used to be the hub on the planet, because there were no actual laws. Like, there's so many laws in Ontario preventing it.
Mm-hmm.
Where,
Right.
and I mentioned this before in the show, where you could have a corner convenience store, you could have a cigar store, you could have a clothing store, but if you had a space, you could rent it out and have a fight. So
just move over that way a little bit.
Fighters would go there, and a fighter
Here, I'll just move the camera. There we go.
in the course of a year could have 20, 25 fights and improve a lot quicker than he could in a place like Ontario where it was so limited.
Yes, you are live. So, well, Neil, why don't you take it over? What do you got to say? Hey, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win the Kambosos fight? Neil
Neil's
comes on the show yapping away, and now all of a sudden he's.
That's interesting. Neil's actually on the air just to ignore us.
Yeah, turn on your microphone. Turn on your audio.
I think he needs a better prescription for those glasses.
Yeah. He needs a better voice box, because is he a fan of Mum and Chance or Marcel Marceau? What? Neil.
I mean, he comes on completely.
Can you hear us, Neil? None of us are wearing pants, by the way. I just wanted you to know that. That was our before show.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Finally.
Yes,
We
I made it.
we were-
Sorry, guys.
we were-
I'm really sorry, guys.
Well. Now the only thing that matters is your opinion
See,
on
this
the
internet
Kambosos.
connection, I don't know.
Oh my God.
Who are you with on the internet?
That's a good one.
Sorry for the time delay. I thought we were in the same time zone.
Good evening, everyone out there in Talkin Fight Land. I'm sorry I've been on vacation
Oh yeah.
because I have no internet.
Okay. Well, now you've got it, and you've got the microphone.
Hold on.
We still have no internet.
Who's gonna win the Kambosos
Okay.
fight?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. Right on. Thank you for coming out, guys. Lou, it's really nice to see you and the boss man up here, Grumpy Graham. Yeah. Oh, there's music in the background.
Only in your
I
head.
forgot to turn off my phone. Sorry.
Okay.
It's my phone going off.
Graham
Anyways,
was
Camboso
asking you-
and the big guy there. We're gonna go over here. Maxie Hughes, right there, guys. Maxie Hughes, is that the guy?
Yes. Yes.
Is it Maxie Hughes, or am I like?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just go.
All right. I know. I'm just playing with you guys. Yeah. Well, George Cambosos Jr. I obviously was like a founder of his uprising, as we all know. I have an episode with Graham, you know, Mike, you know. He took down my favorite fighter, which was unbelievable. I really don't even believe that happened. But Teo was in a bad spot in those years and that time. He's a way different fighter now. But Camboso Jr., I really like him. And I did say, and it's on tape and it's there, that he had a good shot. He's not a chump. He's
Oh yeah.
right. You know,
Really?
what Taylor
That's
thinks.
interesting.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he actually. The only reason why he lost that fight, if take your mic or something. Mike,
No,
am I
no,
making a
no,
mistake?
no,
You're my
no.
analytics man.
Keep
No,
going.
You're glitching.
No, but the
you
problem
look-
we had there was Mr. Josh Taylor, who's my second
You're
second
not
favorite
making-
fighter, and they basically just he basically was at home in Scotland in front of his fans, his family, his friends, everybody, the guy he used to buy ice cream from. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I can see how, Lou, you're the man for this kind of a conversation. There's some weird stuff going on, but Camboso Jr. right now, they're worried about him. I'm telling you, they're worried. You know why? They don't want to bring him out. He just lost 2 against Haney. Now, the problem is, do they put him up against stiffer competition after that? No. They're worried about ding dong. Trust me. So,
We said that
they'll
earlier.
give him
We
a
were saying that's
little
why-
rest here. Yeah. They're
Well,
giving
the
him a little rest so they can utilize him and bring him up. Hopefully, he can
Build his confidence.
rekindle. Yeah, he can rekindle his magic, right? Because he's the Thunder from down under. That's what I call him, anyways.
Well, you know what?
He's a
though?
big koala bear. He can really do the job. He jumps around the ring like a kangaroo. He's really good. But unified, world champion, and basically since then he had 1 good fight. Then he had 2, he went up, Lou? And then that so now he's fighting a guy there, Maxi. He should do that in 6th, 7th, 8th round knockout. That's my opinion. I got Camboso. I love him. I think he's good. Keep him in the mix.
I think the reason Mike and Graham and I were laughing is it was your voice, but it was the face of Sidney Poitier that was on the screen. So we were looking at you and we saw Sidney Poitier and we thought,
he's my favorite actor. I met him. There's 2 favorite actors that I work in the right.
Mm-hmm.
Sidney Poitier was the most. Actually, he was guaranteed, Graham. Honest, the most gentlemanly individual. The absolute warmest, nicest, most beautiful individual I ever met in the film industry. And Charles Bronson, those are the only 2.
Wow.
I didn't. I
don't know
yeah,
why. I got all this light here, but there you go.
Poitier didn't have many good things to say about Cambosos, though. I agree with you with regards to Cambosos. I mean, we were saying earlier that they don't want. He's had 2 tough fights, so against Devin Haney.
Right.
So he wants a guy who's going to come straight to him, which is his wheelhouse, that he could stand there and out punch. And that's a smart move on their part because you want to build up.
This could be the end of him, Lou. If he loses this one, it's basically retirement.
Well, same with
Where are they going to put him now?
Yeah, look at Adam Kanowski. Kanowski 3-4 weeks ago.
Right.
And he took a beating, but he never had a defense. This is what I always disagreed with Tim about. Tim would say you can teach professional fighters defense. No, you can't. You can't. There never has been an instance in boxing of that. A guy
Tim always says it's the defense that's lacking, and that's going to be it's going to.
Yeah. Yes, and boxing
Mike
is a sport of.
Graham knows. You know.
Yeah, it's a sport of
Yeah,
levels.
it really is. It's almost like pressure fighting without any defense. Like you really have to be defensive.
And that's why
in every sport there's offense.
I thought Lomachenko beat Devin Haney, but I think Lopez stands a very good chance of beating Devin Haney because he's, I think, as good technically as Devin Haney, plus he has a lot more power. And I think that would be a great fight. Whether they make it in a year or make it now, we don't know. But there's certain fights when you go way up in level where you either have it or you don't. So we know Ryan Garcia, Mike was saying.
That's when you either are a man at that level or what, you know what I mean? Like you really have to
have the skill level or you don't. And this is one thing that's hurt Canadian boxing for over 100 years. You get fighters like Willie DeWitt or Sean O'Sullivan, and you matched them against bums. And then when they have
to fight that wasn't a good one.
Yeah, and when you fight a good fighter, you get killed. You have to be matched against guys.
Willie.
Yeah. Well, ended up being a Supreme Court of Alberta judge. So, but I liked him because he said I went as far as my ability could take me, and he realized that. And
I love Willie DeWitt. Love Willie DeWitt. I just think that the ability of Cooper.
Right. Well, Cooper had Holyfield out but couldn't finish him, and same with Michael Moore.
Correct.
Cooper ran out of steam. He didn't train, and as I've said before, I got calls from friends of mine when I was doing stand-up. Who should I bet on? Cooper within 2. Cooper will kill him because Cooper was really a cruiserweight that hit like a heavyweight, He was
Right.
just too small for the heavyweight division. Interestingly, when he fought Foreman, he landed the same punches, and Foreman just smiled at him. It had no effect on Foreman.
Yeah.
But Foreman's
Well, it's like guys, as Mike will tell you, and Graham knows, and yourself, Lou, obviously. There's another guy in that division back in those days. We've talked about him a number of times. We've had episodes, Mike, myself, Graham, everybody. Dwight Braxton, which became Dwight Muhammad Cowie. Now, I watched that guy, Lou, and I had a question for Lou, actually. I watched a bunch of fights in the last 2 weeks with Cowie again and again and again and again. But he had a style that before Tyson, but Tyson almost emulated that style. If you watch his fights, he had the same power, that left uppercut hook, the same Tyson, the body shots. So I always liked him, but I just didn't realize that he was actually that good, Dwight Muhammad Cowie. I mean, he's in the top 10, but he was a serious power puncher who at any moment, I mean, he had as he got older, he didn't quite, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Dwight Muhammad Cowie is in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He's one of the great light heavyweight champions of all time. He's only 5'6", and he was in prison. And when he came out of prison,
like me.
Yeah, he was in prison. I didn't know that. The guard said, "See you in a couple of months," and he thought to himself, "I'm never coming back." And one day he's in the gym in New Jersey.
Yeah, you know how Tyson used to do those body punches, pull down, and then he'd hit you. And then he come up with that uppercut up the middle. That was before him. So I'm sure that those guys looked at those tapes. I'm just saying. Because it really, I kind of watched both, and I was like, it is actually pretty close to the same thing.
Yeah, I don't think Cowie invented that. I mean, that's been around in boxing for a long time. Because Cowie knew when he fought Saad Muhammad, who was pretty much a shot fighter by then, but was much taller with longer arms. So when you fight a guy that's taller with longer arms, you got to get inside his reach, otherwise he'll pick you apart.
Yeah.
So he knew, I got to get inside and destroy his body. But
he had a inside fighter, and now much of that going on, Lou. It's an outside fighting life where those guys were in, like, you know what I mean? They're in, like, it was a different fighting. How do you say lifestyle? I guess. Right?
Yeah, there are fights in certain weight classes. I mean, Hagler fought like that.
It's very inspiring on that level.
Yeah, well, Braxton, I thought, was almost his crab-like defense was similar to Norton, but because of his size, he had to fight like Tyson fought, because Tyson was only 5'10", 5'11", but he was really wide. And, you know, for Cowie to beat all those, and Cowie, the guys Cowie beat, most of them ended up in the Hall of Fame. They were great champions. You know, Mike Rossman is not in the Hall of Fame. Marvin Johnson and all these people, Richie Cates and Matthew Saad Muhammad. And he just took them apart so strong, and he got all this leverage. And apparently one day in the gym, he was goofing off, and his trainer grabbed him and said, "If you don't want to go back to jail for the rest of your life, then pay attention." And that really resonated with him. He said at that point, he thought, you know what, he's right. I don't want to go back to jail, ever. You know, I like this lifestyle.
I know. There's another guy I wanted to ask you about, Lou, if you don't mind. Another guy. There's some great fights this weekend. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming out here, talking fight. Like, share, and notification. Hit the bell always. I want to say, guys, the shows have been amazing. Sugar was great. Like you, yourself, Graham. Talking fight is really going up. I'm really happy, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. But the odd time we talk about the old ones like Tim, you know what I mean? But another guy I've been inspecting, just because we're at the end of the show here, I just want to have a quick one, is this guy. And I was kind of like, I didn't have a TV at this time for a long time. So basically I didn't really know much about him, but I watched him the last couple of days, and I'm like, it was a middleweight, and it was, I think his name was Taylor. His last name, Jermaine Taylor? No, not Jermaine Taylor. What's his name?
Right.
The Taylor guy. He kind of had a flat top. He was like 46-1. Like,
was this what era? What year?
Guy?
What year? Because Jermaine Taylor,
he retired in 98, 99. Taylor.
Okay, so Jermaine Taylor.
I can't remember his name all of a sudden. What?
Jermaine Taylor got a gift against.
No, not Jermaine Taylor. It's oh no, next week it's gonna drive me nuts all week. It was they were saying that he was.
You mean Meldrick Taylor?
Matthew Taylor, was it?
Meldrick. Meldrick Taylor was a junior.
What was it, Graham? If you look it up, he was a middleweight champion around 90 to 98, I think, or 97.
Meldrick Taylor, you mean? From Philly? Meldrick.
No, not Meldrick Taylor. No, wait. No, not middleweight. Lou.
I don't know of a middleweight champion named Taylor.
I'm going to look it up on my phone. It's going to drive me nuts. Graham, it's the guy. He's WBC champion. But he got under my radar. Like, that guy impressed me. He knocked out everybody. Like, I'm talking Norris. Remember Norris, Terry Norris? He knocked out all these
Jackson.
fantastic.
We're talking about Jackson. Julius Jackson.
Sorry, Jackson.
Yeah.
Not Taylor, Jackson. That's right.
Yeah.
What was his first name, Lou?
I think it was Julius Jackson, wasn't it?
Julian. That's it. This guy flew under what? 47 knockouts and 49 fights, and he lost one fight. And it was a second round, and he was against the ropes, and he looked at the ref and go, "What are you talking about?" He lost the fight, but he was like, I literally watched this over and over. I'm like, why did they stop? And he gave him a loss. And he was like looking at the ref going, what the heck?
He got stopped by Gerald McQuillan. It was a good stoppage. McQuillan beat the hell out of him. He also got stopped.
McQuillan or McCallum?
Gerald McQuillan. And he also got stopped by Mike McCallum, the body snatcher.
Mike McCallum, wasn't it? The one I saw?
Yeah, Mike McCallum stopped him.
Mike McCallum?
And Gerard McQuillan. McQuillan was a Kronk fighter who sustained severe catastrophic brain damage in his fight against Nigel Benn. And has been in a wheelchair and blind ever since.
He lost 4 all total, but they were right at the end. Like right at the end of the career, when his career was over, he lost 3 or 4.
No, he lost it earlier. He lost in the middle of his career in his prime against McQuillan, and he also lost against Mike McCallum, 2 different guys.
He was a fantastic fighter, Graham. If you look him up, guys, talking fight fans, even I was surprised. He was, how many knockouts, guys? Like 45 out of 49?
And the best knockout was Buster Drayton, where after he hit him with the right hand, Drayton wavered and then fell, and he went like this. Bang! And he also...
They said it was knockout of the year 1990, Lou. 1990 was knockout of the year?
Yeah.
That's the one where it was knockout of the year. Yeah.
And he knocked out Terry Norris.
Our producer's commenting that according to boxing lore, Anthony Jones and Verno Phillips are the 2 guys you're thinking of, according to BoxRec.
Julian Jackson. My mistake.
Julian Jackson. Guys, I'm sorry he went under the radar on me, but that was impressive.
Julian. My mistake. Thank you, TF.
Julian Jackson.
Yeah.
Really? Like how? I was completely blown away by his.
Well, I met him at the Hall of Fame. I also followed his son, who knocked down Andy Lee, got up, went in for the kill, and Andy Lee hit him a right hand, knocked him cold. But
wow,
Julian Jackson's in the Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. He was a dominant.
And I don't even know who he is, which surprised me.
Yeah, he dominated his division. He was wonderful.
Middleweight. This is Hagler's division. You know what I'm saying?
No, well, he wasn't a middleweight. He was a junior middleweight.
Oh, is that what he was? It kept saying middleweight, and I'm thinking, I don't remember that.
No, from 80 to 87, it was Hagler.
Okay, yeah. So, guys, we got some big fights. I know we're getting close to the 1 hour here. So, Graham, I'm looking at McGregor. What about that McGregor fight, guys? What do you think about that one this weekend there in the UK?
It's already over.
5 o'clock, I know. So, what's the outcome, guys? Give us the big one.
Well, we said we wouldn't because it would give our viewers a chance to actually watch it.
So I can still talk about it.
Well, you can talk about it, but we're not going to because we already have. But we did let the audience know.
What about the other guy, guys?
Matty Harris.
Sorry. No, I want to talk about this new kid, the Olympian, the 2020 silver medalist there, Deshaun. We got him here. You guys talked about him in the undercard of that one?
Keyshawn Davis.
They say he's a superstar.
We spoke about him at length.
What's his last name? Deshaun something or something?
Keyshawn Davis.
He's going to fight.
Davis, yeah, Davis. He looks good.
But the fight for him, as Mike said very well, was Kid Austin, who he hasn't fought
Right.
yet. That would be a great fight. I'm looking forward to Inoue and Fulton, but the problem is it's Tuesday morning at 4:15 a.m.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Inoue is
So-
one of my favorites. He's a great fighter. Graham, we all know about him. I did an episode on him, and all those Japanese fans out there, Neil the Deal fans, as you know, here at Talkin' Fight. Lou, I always love hanging out with you, man, because you're just a
vice versa.
plethora of information that I really need. And I got an idea for us, Lou. A new show. Graham, I've been working on it. I got a surprise for us. And Lou, you just might be the what do I call him? Remember, it's like the
Schmuck?
no, it's like a sports trivia type of thing, but we're gonna do it here, and you might be the what was that show, Lou? Do you remember that?
Oh, Stump the Schwab.
You got it. I knew I was gonna tell you, but I just wanted to see if you remember. It was my favorite show. Stump the
Oh,
Schwab.
man.
So now we're gonna do Talkin' Fight, Stump the Schwab, but we'll fit, and you're the Schwab.
Okay.
Me
I've
and
been
you
called
will
much
take
worse
turns
than
being the Schwabs.
Yes.
It's
been
fun
called
as
much
heck.
worse.
It's the funnest. It's like Cash Cab. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, we're 5 minutes
Fox-
over. So
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
say your last 2 cents, Neil, and then we'll sign off.
I
All right,
pick
guys.
a
Thanks a
Nui in
lot.
2
Sorry I
rounds.
was late. This has been a hectic week with no internet. They cut the line up the road or something, and it just keeps getting cut. And I don't know what to tell you. But thanks a lot. Enjoy the Friday night panel. I'm missing Tim and Graham, of course. I miss you every day. Lou, thanks a lot for coming out and doing this, man. And we're looking for your book. And I got my show Monday at 8:30, Boxing 101. So what about the
Yep.
book? And that's all I got to
The
tell you.
book is ready, and I just have to go over the last thing the publisher sent to me. So it looks pretty
Okay.
good. I just have to call them Monday and say, let it go, release it.
Nice. Let the royalties fly.
Fantastic. We're all looking
Yeah.
forward to it. The whole world's looking forward to it. We're going to sell some books for
The
you, Lou.
royal
Hopefully.
tea. Thank you. Me
Hey,
too.
you're an amazing guy. Thanks a lot for all your expertise. I really
So are
appreciate
you.
it every day. Thank you for your time.
So are you.
Right, Talkin' Fight fans, thank you very much for joining us once again here on the Friday night panel. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it. Grumpy Graham signing off. We'll see you next Friday.